Yeah, welcome, and we're going to show you how to just review on how to create a function, right? Or we call methods. So I'm going to call the project name Java method demo. So we're going to learn how to create a method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a class, okay? According to that, a program that do the authentication. So I'm going to call user authentication, right? So include the main, and we're going to create everything in the mains. For example, I'm going to make it short, okay? So the option pane dot show input dialog, right? So use the option pane to prompt the user to enter username, okay? And again to enter password. So the option pane said we're going to get an input back. We're going to declare as string back, right? So user name and string password. So username go here and password go here. Now we got say if, we gotta use if to help, right? Conditions, right? So the first part here, I'm going to change the comments to read, right? Input, right? User name and password. And the second part, we gotta do the authentication part. So we're going to say if username, right, that we read in equals to the one that we have in the record. So for example, for now we're gonna make just another variable, which is the correct username, something like that, right, equals to my name and another one with the correct password. Let's say 1234. Now authentication, if user name, we said this is a string class, we haven't access to the equals, right? Username can be case sensitive or no, non-case sensitive, right? Uppercase, lowercase doesn't matter, so use equals is fine. Equals to the one on the record, rename correct password, right? Correct username. So if it's equal, so we're going to say the option pane dot but show message dialog right, and say welcome with the user name, right? So else mean, oh, it's not welcome yet though, until we check again for. So if it's equals, then we can check again for the password, right? So both of them has to be equals, then we say welcome, right? So we do nested if, right? If inside the if, we call nested if. So if the password is incorrect, so we do else, right? to say if the password is incorrect, we do else and change the message here. Invalid password. Now if the username is incorrect, do else again. Say invalid username, right? So let's test the program. Enter username, password, welcome. Now let's test wrong username. If username equals to L, it should say invalid username, right? Why is it popping up password? Username oh, that's right, because you asked it to prompt twice here, right? That should be the place correct. Invalid username, right? So let's test with the invalid password. T. Because it's case sensitive, so I need to do equals.ignore case, right? Because we say it's going to be non-case sensitive, right? That's common for username, right? So that's the reason. Let's test. Okay, it works. So invalid. So the program works as expected. Now when you write a program, you're supposed to test just like what I've shown you for all the scenarios, right? If you just test one scenario, then it never get into those to test, right? So this is in one methods in main, right? So the question is, if I want to break this into different methods, can I do that? Yes, I can. Like for example, the reason we want to do that first is then we can reuse, right, the methods in the same program or in different program. This part I'm going to move it to authentication, right? So I'm going to create a method name public authentication. Now we need to pass in the username, which is a string. Like some method, you need to have the parameters. So now this part can be sharing. Right, now this is the scope of the variables. If I put string username here, this only valid inside the authentication method, only this scope that I highlighted. Same, the correct username and correct password only valid inside the main. So that's called local, right? And if we want to make it global to the class, we just put it outside of the method, so it's going to be global. Now it know what it is, so same here. Then we can share them, right? So in that case, if I share that, we may refer, if we want to refer to the same username, you don't really need that, right? So now since this is a static, so it's just like you to access in a static way, right? Now again, like I said, if you want it to be local, that's fine too. You put it in, then you need to pass the parameter through this. So let's see. I show you without the parameter first. Now, so we said, okay, authentication. What's the authentication supposed to do? Check if this is equals, right? And if it's equals, then it's going to do prompt for enter password. We have to give the type that will say. So if it's not return anything, it's void. So method can return something, can return nothing. If it's return nothing, we use void. So if you want to make it return something, like if you want to return true or false, boolean, right, you can say if username is equals to, you can say like boolean status, and status if it's equals, so we say status equals to true, something like that. But let's say the status for both, right? And then this can be the status for false, right? So now the method is need to return that status, because this guy is going to do just authentication, right? And you need to initialize it. Let's say either true or false. So let's say assuming always false. Now we want to use this. So before we can use this, we can actually modify this a little bit. But let me just show you how to use this first. I'm going to modify it to be like make more sense why we need the methods. Of course, you try to use statics, so this has to be statics, right? Because inside the statics, you try to use statics, then require to statics to be statics here, then you can use that. Now when this comes statics, then this all has to be statics. And now normally the scope of this, we like to have it as private. So we're going to make it as private. Okay, that is only valid inside this class. The variables, the scope. Okay. Now statics here too. Alright, so let's run the program. Enter username, enter password. So program works the same, right? So that's, I just try to show you we can actually call the methods. Right. We can actually modify this to be better. Okay. Like normally why we need to do that, we want to modify this to be better by make it be able to sharing between different GUI, maybe. Like this is the GUI for the option pane. We can actually do authentication for the console, or do the Java graphic user interface with Swing, or even on the web format, right? They all